of the Cass County Public Library Board of Trustees for September 2023. Thank you all for being here. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda that we received in the packet.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented. I'll second it.
All right, all those in favor of approval of the agenda say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Awesome. And the consent agenda, we have approval of minutes from our August 16 and August 30th meetings, and then the financial reports for August. Were there any questions? Thank you, Dan, for answering my questions. And anything that anybody had before we approve those documents? By the way, I don't think I announced it. Jessica is here in the meeting. She's just on video conference rather than live.
Betty.
There you go. All right, well, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as we received.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no.
Aye.
All right. We're moving on to public comment. I have 3 for today. Ms. Connie Foisel, you're up first.
Good afternoon, I am Connie Foisel. The intent of the proposal to relocate library materials is flawed in many ways. It addresses a non-existent problem by labeling art, sex education, health, puberty, and art materials as sexual content. It appears to be in opposition to the state's official definition of sexual content. 3 members deciding for parents what their children may access is not supporting parental rights. The author and the supporters of this proposal place a great emphasis on the family resource room or area, but when questioned by another member where this room or area would be located in the branches, they had no response. Is this because the true intent of this proposal is simply to censor materials? The author and supporters of this proposal, in the simplicity of their thought process, had not considered the $1.2 million cost of evaluating, relocating, and recataloging 83,000 materials in all the children's sections and all the branches. It would appear the author and the supporters thought they could just simply remove materials that they had zeroed in on based on their own personal preferences. The rationale for this proposal is cut from the same cloth in which a 4% COLA coupled with non-existent merit pay was presented as respect for the library staff. The same cloth in which members portrayed setting aside the majority vote in favor of Proposition L, in which the voters chose themselves to increase their own taxes on a continuing basis to support the library as respecting the taxpayers. The intent of this proposal is not intended to respect the taxpayers, but rather to place their own personal preferences in library policy. In closing, please remember author Ray Bradbury's quote, "You don't have to burn books to destroy a culture. Just get people to stop reading them." Or in this case, one might add, determining what people may read. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Tom Marshall?
Good afternoon. My name's Tom Marshall. I'm resident of Cass County. We've met. And a patron of the library. I'm a retired attorney and spent most of my 38-year legal career representing labor unions. I started paying attention to the Board of Trustees when I heard about efforts to hide a book from its target audience. The particular book that triggered the current complaint is It's Perfectly Normal by 83-year-old author Robbie Harris. The book was published in 1994 and has been through several revisions. This book has apparently been on the shelves in the Cass County Library for more than 20 years. Prior to the complaint about it, I was told it had been checked out a total of 4 times. In the last 2 years, this same book has been the subject of complaints in dozens of libraries across the country. The folks complaining have been careful to say they are not seeking to ban the book, but they want to move to a different location in the library. The argument has been that moving the book will somehow prevent young patrons from seeing it without the approval of their parents. I have not seen the most recent proposal for moving this book, but it sounds like the proposal will include unspecified additional books. It will take some artful drafting to avoid including the King James Version of the Bible among the books to be moved. The problem with this project of hiding books is that it doesn't make common sense. That's why it's so hard to create definitions of terms and include what some patrons don't like, but avoid the collateral damage done to books that they do not want hidden. I believe the board would do well to follow the guidance of the Missouri Public Library Trustee Manual promulgated by the Missouri Secretary of State. At page 25, the manual states, trustees must be committed to the principles of freedom of expression and inquiry that are fundamental to the role of public libraries in a democratic society. The community benefits collectively when democratic institutions uphold the right of access to information. Public libraries are for everyone. There are those who want to limit what others may read, see, or listen to, but libraries provide the right of unrestricted access to the expressions and beliefs of others. This is not the first library to receive a complaint about Ms. Harris' book. Notwithstanding the complaints, in most cases, the book has remained on the shelves, accessible to all patrons. I urge that the board take that position regarding the current complaint. There have been references to freedom and liberty in the course of these book protests. These terms have been used by the folks urging censorship. The concept I believe the library should support most strongly is the freedom to read. Exercising that freedom is probably the most important lesson to be taught to young people today. Please do not place unreasonable limits on that freedom. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. And Mr. Dallas, register.
Not sure how this is going to turn out, but most of the recent frenzy, if you will, or protest, if you will, over a book involving human sexuality. I would like to broach a different subject involving suicide. I've never committed suicide personally, but I've got experience with a granddaughter that attempted suicide, and also a very good friend that I watched cart his body out of the back bedroom with a bullet hole in his head. I have this particular book that I got. It's called Suicide, Opposing Viewpoints. It's part of the Opposing Viewpoints series that a particular publisher has. And they figured it would be a good idea to give both sides of whether or not a child were to commit suicide, or anybody for that matter. In this particular case, right here on the spine, young adults. This came out of the San Diego, California library, and I think it was withdrawn. I sent an email to him yesterday and asked him to make sure that it was formally withdrawn from the library. But this book can be accessed by anybody that has a Cass County library, public library card. And the parents don't always have access to what their children are accessing as far as the library is concerned. There are 241 books on suicide in the Cass County Public Library. There are 1,442 accessible in the Evergreen Consortium. Basically, what the library says with their in loco parentis policy is we will not interfere between the parent and the child and access to library material, which is great, but in this case, no decision is a decision. So if a child, and you can imagine, and I believe that some point in time, some child is going to access a library book on suicide, and this particular publisher wants that decision to be a rational decision, doesn't want them to just be a spur of the moment decision, wants to investigate it, research it before they commit suicide. Maybe it'll cause them to turn away from committing suicide. Maybe it will throw them to the other side, decide that they can commit suicide. The book is, and apparently, there's a lot of consideration for experts. There's about 80 experts in this particular book, which approaches, the books, and it's perfectly normal. And so you've got both sides of the aisle telling these kids, whether or not to commit suicide. does anybody in this room feel that it is reasonable to have a child do their own research without having a parent, guardian, or grandparent available
Thank,
to help
sorry,
them in
guys.
that quest?
Thank
Thank you very
guys.
much.
Thank you all very much. We are going to move on now to new business. We've got our capital improvement plan that is having our first visual of.
Mhm.
So,
And it is a draft. It is just that, a draft.
right,
So
that's what I was trying, that was the word I
Yeah.
was trying to come up with, our first draft of, and my brain was not going there, so
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Mhm.
I don't know, I think that maybe before we even move any further, we've got our capital improvement plan draft, we've got our budget that we're wanting to work on. I'd like for us to get some dates on the calendar to do some work sessions. I mean, we
Excellent.
just got we're just getting the information. We're gonna want to be able to digest some things, ask questions, discuss, talk about it. And so, I wanted to find out if, I don't know if Wednesdays tend to be good days, but maybe like 2 weeks from now, which I believe is October the 4th.
That's not the best for me, but the day before, the day after would work.
Okay.
Or
The
what,
fourth
next
doesn't work
Wednesday.
for me either.
Oh.
Next Wednesday does
Is
work for me
next
too.
Wednesday
Doesn't
works
work for me. My
Okay.
husband has appointments that I have to drive.
Okay.
Oh,
Does another day that week, that gives us a couple of weeks to
Yeah.
kind of really work through, or
Second and third work for me.
second and third.
If we keep it at the
Jessica,
same time.
is the 3rd a Tuesday?
Yes.
that works for me.
You?
I don't know
We can
for
do it
sure.
late.
I don't-
We can decide. Oh. We can decide to get together, like say 5:30 or whatever. I mean, just. to
Sorry,
go-
my connection's getting funky, I guess. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, the second, the third or the fourth, fine for me.
Okay. What I was
You hear me?
saying is,
Yes.
if work for you is the issue, we
Well,
could do it at, like,
Well, right now I have another issue, but I don't know how
Okay.
long it's gonna last.
okay.
I've got called on jury duty the last week in September, so I don't know how long that'll last, so.
Okay,
But I do what I can do.
okay.
Nothing you can do about that.
Yeah, no. So if we schedule is that
Tuesday.
October the
October
3rd?
3rd.
Is that Tuesday then?
Yes.
Uh,
Uh-huh. Do we want to stick with the 4:45 classes?
Would the later time be better for you, just work-wise, if you're,
Not necessarily.
okay, so 4:45 works?
They're kind of used to me getting off early.
So we'll stick with the 4:45?
October 3rd.
Yep.
Yep.
And then, I was thinking, okay, then we'll have a couple weeks before we have another meeting.
Mhm.
And then what if we plan for then, I don't have, you got a
I have
calendar
lots
pulled
of
up?
dates and I have a calendar. Yep.
What is the last, maybe, we have our meeting on the 18th,
Mhm.
maybe, November 1st or sometime of that week?
Uh-huh. First and the second both work for me in that week.
I can't do the 2nd.
Okay, so November 1st, does that work for you, Jessica?
That doesn't work for me.
It doesn't work for you?
When, the 8th works. I suppose, but that's kind of close.
I'm feeling like that might be cutting it kind of close. I guess we could look at the week after our meeting.
The second on
the
a
20
Thursday would work.
Somebody said that
25th?
wouldn't work for them. The 25th maybe of October? I don't even have my
Works for me
calendar.
then.
October
Yep,
25th.
that would work for me.
Jessica, October 25?
Yeah.
That's a Wednesday,
Yes.
Mhm.
same time.
Okay.
And then we'll at least have those two. If when we get together on the 3rd or we get together on the 16th and we're like, oh my gosh,
Mhm.
then we can add to that. But let's at least have those two planned. So, sorry, we'll go back to.
No,
Is there
that's
anything
fine.
Is there
Yeah.
anything you wanted to present to us, like this evening with respect to capital improvement plan, just kind of?
I just wanted you all to have it. I was not expecting this. I was not expecting you all to just look at it and be like, yep, this is good, let's do it.
Right,
No,
right.
I just wanted to have it in front of your eyes and just to see how I organized everything. I mean, I can just there's a brief overview, then there's a summary list of the projects, there's a proposed project schedule, so you can sometimes it works better if you see it in a timeline
Right.
version, and then I also broke it down by every location. And like I said, this is a draft. We can modify it as
Sure.
needed, so that we
And
can.
I sent him some
Yeah, you did.
questions
Yes.
that everybody saw
Yeah.
too.
Yep.
That
Well-
can be addressed in the work session.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yes, yes. Well, I think just having a beginning point
Yep.
is of great help.
Mhm.
So, um, that's good. Any thoughts on that right now, or any questions you want to pose to Dan that he can be putting together some answers to before the 3rd? Okay.
I assume Dan's working with Mike and them to work on our investments and things like that, and just, that works into the budget too, so this is all one great big
It's really hard
moving
to.
pieces.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, it's really hard to, let's approve a budget without having seen this, especially since this needs to be approved by the end of the year. This actually is a great time. We
Now,
can
what
look at
needs to
both
be
of
approved
these.
by the end
The
of the year?
capital improvement plan.
Because
It's in the strategic plan.
it is, so
Yes.
it's not like some legal thing.
No,
we are
no.
just
No,
trying
no,
to,
no, no, that's-
yeah. I just wanted to make that clear, like, yes,
Yeah.
our goal is to do that.
Yes,
If we find that we're struggling, we're not gonna like force something.
right.
But that's our goal, is the end of
Yes.
the year.
Mhm.
But we
That's what-
do have to have the budget approved at the November meeting.
Yes.
It's urged.
And that's in the bylaws.
What
That's
is
in the
the-
bylaws.
Okay, at the November meeting?
Yes.
What's the,
Tanya?
yes,
Hey, I really do feel that we need to put some work into this capital improvement plan, because at the end of the day, doing the budget without having approved some sort of capital improvement plan, I don't know that it needs to include all of this at this point.
yeah,
But I think we need to have something on the table, even if we don't go this far out, before we approve our budget. I think we need to really make an effort to have something.
that's a good point. I agree with that.
Madam Chair, can I
Of
interject a
course,
point
yes.
that I see other jurisdictions do sometimes? First of all, your capital improvement plan is also contemplated by your financial management policies, so that's another reason why you want to have it as you do. But I have seen jurisdictions work on their capital improvement plan, they adopt their budget, and then they may come back 3 months later and they may make some budget amendments. And that's certainly within the realm of normal activity. So to Jessica's point, yes, you want as much work as you can get done before the budget, but you can also amend your budget. And
Right.
you have flexibility in this proposed budget to do that.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah.
And with respect to the bylaws,
Mhm.
I don't have that memorized. What
That's
does
okay.
it specifically say?
I looked it up just so that I was right.
Yeah.
So the board shall adopt and approve at its November meeting an annual budget for the ensuing fiscal year, covering all items of expenditure and anticipated revenue.
And is there some legal reason for that? Like, do we have to turn in a budget to anybody? Is that just for us personally?
It's for us, but since
Okay.
our fiscal year is January to December, if we didn't have a budget that we were operating with, I feel like we're at least getting in a gray area statutorily.
Right.
So
Gotcha.
And help the auditors have a strong time frame.
yeah.
Sorry, I'm writing this down. So we're kind of in that place of we've received your initial budget
Mhm.
draft
Mhm.
as well.
Mhm.
One of the things I had sent you an email, and I didn't expect any. I mean, I've only been able to go through the first
Yeah.
page myself anyway, but I don't want to say surprised, but I wasn't aware that we were definitely going to implement that compensation, what do we call it? Performance-based compensation with it. Can you kind of it's kind of a hybrid, it seems
It
like.
is.
Normally, it would seem like you would do one or the other, but
Yeah, so and that is so we have been working on it. So I have it in part of an email draft, but yeah, last year when we had the budget discussions for 2023, we were talking about uh the different percentage raises that we would give across the board to all staff. And there were trustees that expressed dislike. I don't know, not not crazy about the idea of just giving a set percentage raise.
right.
Because I mean, you do have non-performers, you have underperformers, and then you have overperformers, and it's like, why should I work harder, if I'm going to get the same amount? And so it it was also mentioned that it wouldn't it would it be possible to offer a different compensation rate to individual staff? And so I mentioned that we had planned to implement performance-based pay raises since we have revised our performance evaluation system and we've had it for we're in our fourth year. And then that seemed to be received better than across the board. And the reason that we are doing both is the compensation study that we had done recommended a 3% to 5% increase cost of living and a performance-based increase aspect. And when the board went through that, they were accepted. And so I figured, well, it only makes sense to implement them. But to approach it from your other question, basically, is this typical business practice? A lot of libraries have moved to this hybrid form because it ensures that all staff receive some sort of cost of living increase. And I don't have to tell anyone in this room how crazy cost of living increases have been and inflation. But so this it ensures that there is at least some increase for all staff, and it also rewards those who perform better. And when you take all those into account, it does have the potential to save the library money. So, like in previous years, we've proposed like a 5%, 7%, 8% across the board.
Right.
And, that's great. I mean, if we had unlimited money, I mean, our staff are wonderful. I want to compensate them as much as possible.
Right.
But staff is always going to increase and percentages will always increase. Percentages will increase more when you have higher paid people. So, with this, we can still give people a cost of living increase to at least partially offset the consumer price index and the projected inflation, but it also encourages them to continue to do their job well because we have staff that are amazing. And when they do their job well, they will get another little bump to their base pay.
Yeah.
So I hope you're completely new to this because you weren't here with the compensation study. Okay, yeah.
So I do remember this.
All right.
But I think she needs to have a copy of the
Yes.
compensation study.
Yeah.
Oh, so y'all
Definitely.
need to get her a copy.
Good point.
And then the other thing, I got out my last year's budget thing,
Mhm.
and here's the pay scales for all the different levels.
Yes.
And I'd like to see an update of that, of what we are currently paid.
And that is
What
for
does the
23,
sub make, a beginning rate?
1375. But or is which year is that?
It says 22 draft budget, so am I a year behind?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I'm a year behind.
that was the last scale on our
Old.
previous
Okay,
system.
okay.
So yes, I will get an updated compensation scale for everyone.
Yeah.
I'll
Yes.
get you a copy of the whole compensation study.
Yes,
Um,
okay, so I'm gonna,
You were on track. It was
Mark
just
this
the
Yeah.
old
No,
form.
yeah. So, sometimes I look at that and I was like, oh wait, nope,
no, okay, that's,
we've had a lot
Just-
going on the last 2 years.
yes, but
Yeah.
I'm,
Becky, thanks for asking for that, because I was wanting it too. And
Yeah.
Dan, I have to say, I'm so excited about you doing this. This makes
Oh.
me super happy.
Well, great. I'm glad.
Anything else
did
for?
Mike look at our budget?
Yes,
And,
the draft budget,
uh-huh,
it looked good to me. I mean, it's first of all, it's balanced, which it has to be consistent with your policy. And you have run historical trends of under budgeting revenues, which you're proposing to do again for next year. The budget figure that you put in there is lower than the simple levy calculation against assessed valuation would reveal. Nothing wrong with that. It's not dramatically lower. It's lower.
Yeah.
But not dramatically lower. And that's good. I mean, that's okay. And then the expenditures are appropriately below, I think in past years, what you've actually budgeted. There's probably reasons for that I don't know the details of, maybe some staff positions that aren't filled, things like that. But nothing in this proposed budget struck us as abnormal. You have a very healthy financial position.
Our reserves are sufficient?
Yeah, I mean, you spent a lot of money on the Pleasant Hill branch, and you had it. And so you did to some extent deplete some monies that had been built up. You still are going to end this year, based upon what staff tells us, at a pretty healthy level, and that's good.
Okay.
And that's good. And we'll wait and see. We need to see your audit from 22, which is not yet available, because that in our business, that's just what we base things off of, what the third-party auditors say. You know, we want to see what they've said, and then see how the year 2023 unofficially ends, even without the audit. But it looks like you're going to end very favorably. You're going to have built up some reserves again. That's good. You have a good, healthy cushion every year if you continue historical trends of underspending against your revenues. So that'll be healthy for you. You have some this capital improvements plan has some fairly big items in it, which, you have a lot of branches in this district. You have a lot of branches for a one county district. And so that means you got a lot of stuff to maintain. But no, you look good. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Anything else for tonight? Kind of beginning the process? Anything else, Jessica, on that? Okay.
Cool.
Okay, we're gonna move on to director's reports.
Awesome. Yeah. I provided this in my report, but I want to talk about it because it's exciting. I just finished our final report for our grant for the STEM kits, which were very popular. We had 15 kits. They circulated 100 times in just 2 months. And the stats on the satisfaction surveys were fantastic. 95% either agreed or strongly agreed that the kids provided a valuable learning experience. 100% either agreed or strongly agreed that the resources included were helpful and expanded their knowledge or their child's. 100% agreed or strongly agreed that they intend to check out kits on other topics. And 100% responded that they would be likely or extremely likely to recommend kits to others. So this inspired Heather, our former youth services coordinator, to gather some items and create our own in-house kits, which actually ended up saving us money than buying the whole thing together. And so before the end of the year, we're going to look into what we can create new kits on. And one piece of feedback that we did get quite often in the surveys was the kits were great. It was great for hands-on learning, but people wanted more books in it because most of them only came with one book. And so we're going to, add a couple of books in there. So give the people what they want. And then other exciting news, the Pleasant Hill grand opening is happening Friday at 10 a.m. The branch has been open since last Tuesday. We've been working out some workflow kinks, and we were waiting for the internet to be fully up. That's all operational. At 10 a.m. we're having a grand opening. We're having a special performance by Mr. Brad. And for those of you who don't know who he is, he used to be our branch manager in Archie, and he does some kids shows. He's also in a band, and he's wonderful. So he's going to do a special program for us right after the ribbon cutting. And then if people can't make it on Friday, on Saturday we have Mad Science performing one show at 10 a.m. and then from 11 to 1 we're having face painting and balloon twisters. And then at 1:30, we're having Mad Science for an encore presentation of a different show. So it's going to be a kid-friendly all day on Saturday. I'm really excited about it, and if you have not been there yet, please, please, please come. It's it's amazing. Clark and Anderson and Royal Construction, they really took what we had on paper and originally in our minds and really made it a reality. And um, it's it's going to be so good for our community, and I'm really proud of the work that we've done.
Nice.
So, um, and then I mean, that's what I wanted to toot my horn about.
I like it. I have
Yeah.
a question about the kids.
Yeah.
Where were they located? Were some of them at every branch
We
or?
we had them at 4 of the branches. We did not have space for them at Drexel or actually, well, no, we didn't have them at Pleasant Hill because they closed early. But what we did for the branches that did not have the physical kits, we had a nice flyer that showed all of them and described what was in there, and we had a QR code that people could just scan and put a hold on them, and that worked. So yeah, but there were a few more at NRC in Harrisonville, and I would love to say that we had them in a nice area to display, but they were never on our shelves. They were always checked out. I think we have 2 on the shelf right now, but yeah, I mean, people loved them, so
Yeah.
I can't wait to add more.
Nice. Let's see, anything else? Branch activities reports? Oh, nice question. What about the changes in staff positions? Anything updated there?
Yes.
Just a little bit.
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah, so as far as the branch, we were able to fill the bookmobile youth specialist / driver position. So they are fully staffed at this point, and we are looking to fill a genealogy sub. That's all we have right now, in branch. And then,
That's the only one.
mhm.
Okay.
And then for administration, I think y'all talked about Deb moving on last time. So Mary Duncan is actually transferring from technical services, and she's going to be filling that role. And then we have that opening
Yeah.
there. And then our youth services coordinator is still open.
Yep.
At what?
Just
That's
the coordinator.
That's the
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Heather.
Heather. Yeah. Yeah.
That's right.
So.
Okay. Has there been any, like, has there been?
We've had some interviews,
Thank
and we are waiting for some candidates to get back into town because I guess they decided to take vacation outside with summer. No, but then
Great.
we're going to contact them, and we're going to follow up with them. So I'm hoping that we can have that position filled by the end of October. And in the interim, we have some because that position does a lot of the purchasing for youth. We have some holiday books like Halloween, Thanksgiving. We already have those purchased, so we're at least getting some hot items out,
Okay.
so we don't have a dip in that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else from y'all? Are we really about to wrap this up?
It's okay. We have been very busy over the past month with Pleasant Hill and NRC. Yeah, and we're going to have 2 work sessions next month,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
I think it's okay.
It's okay. Is there anything from the trustees?
Just want to urge you to go to Pleasant Hill. It's a fabulous. We tripled what we had at Pleasant Hill. I remember 2 years ago on an August day, Dan and I walked through this old bank, and they were wanting to sell it. They thought of the library first,
Yeah.
and they sold it to us, and then the foundation turned around with more than half of what we paid for it. They gave us the money back in terms of furnishings.
Yep.
Through their foundation. And when you go in there, there's references to Pleasant Hill history,
Mhm.
the old bank vault. The door's not there, but the bank vault. There's a little bit left of the old bank, but
Yeah.
it's a library for all of Cass County, not just Pleasant Hill.
Sure.
I can see people from Strasburg and East Lynn and Latour and all along there coming to the Pleasant Hill Library. It's just
Yeah.
absolutely beautiful. And Mary Margaret Ledwidge left us $200,000. No, not that much, but she left us money, and
Yeah.
we poured it back into a community that she loved.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I know the staff and Dan and everybody have been, Zach going crazy, getting it all hooked up. But it's beautiful. It's what our county deserves.
Yeah.
So go see it.
I agree.
I'm excited to go Friday.
Oh, and the grand opening will be inside because the forecast
It's for
looks
rain.
terrible. So, but we have plenty of room inside. So, we've got it all staged. I think it's going to be a really nice event.
I think you ought to put it outside and hope that it rains.
Come on, Roger.
That'll be a surefire way.
That's
to go.
right.
Yeah, man, it's
These
sure
are all the
far away to get
diehard
rain
people.
around
These
it.
people are here. Yes.
Yeah. I like that. Okay, well, I will entertain a motion to, is it okay to say, I don't think there's anything for us to go into real estate for unless you have
No, I
something.
don't.
So I will entertain a motion to close the meeting.
I make a motion that we adjourn at 5:21.
Yeah. Of a board meeting.
I second it.
Okay.
Roll call? No, we
They
can
can-
do it.
yeah.
All in favor of adjourning the meeting?
Aye.
Say aye, aye. All those opposed, say no.